Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video.
Donald Trump has been mooted to have plans to sell the USPS. Is this feasible? Watch on to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, recently I posted something on LinkedIn about Mr. Trump's or future President Trump's latest idea, which apparently is to consider selling off the USPS. Have you heard about that?
I did. I saw actually it was your post that alerted me to it. It does remind me right back at the beginning of the Royal Mail privatisation in 2016, which followed the separation of Royal Mail and Post Office. Now USPS is still one huge, enormous business, all the logistics and home delivery, and an enormous retail chain as well. So I'm wondering if this is a combo deal or whether it's a similar idea to break it up a little bit, get rid of the delivery arm and make the retail part separate. I'm not sure what would happen.
Yeah, the thing, because in theory, it's all great. You privatize, the taxpayer no longer has the problem, but the flip side is that the taxpayer who's also Joe Public, who use the post office, will then be subject to whatever service issues or cost issues that arise. My take on it is that in principle, great idea, but you first have to clean it up a little bit, because if you leave all the issues within the business and you just privatize it, all you're doing is you're moving a problem child from the state to a private owner who probably won't manage. And then if you're lucky, you'll get a white knight like Daniel Kretinsky in the case of Royal Mail. But if you're unlucky, then it goes back to the taxpayer with an even bigger problem.
Well, I think the big challenge here is that Royal Mail is not a broken business. Without the post office burden, if you like, the government subsidy that runs the post office, it doesn't lose relatively a huge amount of money. USPS, on the other hand, lost $9.5 billion in 2024. So I think you've got to drag that number close to zero at the very least before you could think about somebody taking it on. Otherwise, the US government has got the issue of how much money are you going to pay to somebody to take the problem child away? You're going to burn $800 million a month while you're trying to get it into order, and you've got a huge business, highly bureaucratic, very top heavy, very expensive workforce, very, very strong union, huge amount of challenges, and two massive private competitors in the parcel space, which are UPS and FedEx, as we've talked about in other videos, have got their own issues to try to get back to profitability. A country that does something like 60% of its e-commerce through Amazon and Amazon logistics, stealing volume from everybody, I think it's a tough order for somebody to take it on. I don't know how deep Daniel's pockets are, but I don't think they're that deep.
Yeah, and I think this is really the $64,000 question. Can they bring it to the point at which it's not losing? And frankly, if they find the management that can do that, then why bother privatizing it? Because it will be working. On the other hand,
you take the Royal Mail approach and you say, right, post offices themselves are the cash drain, and we keep that in government ownership to make sure services are protected. And as we said before, people that are dependent on their local post office a lot of the time, we keep all of that in play, and then you just get rid of the delivery business. If you could cleave them in two, maybe there's a bit of value in the delivery business that could be separated off.
Yeah, I think it's certainly far more complex, and we said the amounts are bigger, but then the US is so much bigger. My feeling is there's no easy win, perhaps by separating. And by the way, we'll have another video on separation because FedEx have announced a separation or a plan to separate their freight business from the core business, and we can talk about that later. But I guess, Gary, the advantage of the separation will be that it means you have, in theory, two more manageable businesses because they're more focused, they cover less. And as you mentioned, a lot of the issues are in the big infrastructure, if it's like the UK. But my feeling, though, is if future President Trump wants to deal with this, he's going to have some damn good people inside. Frankly, whatever decision is taken, whether it's to keep things as they are, whether it's to split, or whether it's to sell, none of that will work without strong management. And I'm not so sure that that's been the case, not just, by the way, with USPS. I always say that we have the legacy carriers in the US. It's a market whereby I would say there's not much they can be taught, quite the opposite in terms of fulfillment, certainly if you go to see an Amazon fulfillment center. But on the last mile, although Amazon's done an awful lot of learning, I'm not so convinced that the market's gone that way.
No, but they still have quite a lot of letters. I mean, I don't think the letter volume has dropped to the very low percentage you see some of the European markets. Americans still pay their bills with these little bits of paper called checks. I mean, I literally can't remember the last time I wrote a check. My wife won a little prize in a charity raffle, and they sent her a check for £20. And it was like receiving, something from like Raiders of the Lost Ark, some sort of antique document. Well, like, what do I do with this now? There's a little bit of that. So the US has still got a decent amount of mail volume about. I've met Postmaster Joy on a couple of occasions, and he's an ambitious guy. He's in his early 70s now, but he's still got big plans for the organisation, and he's been trying to lead a big turnaround. But it just shows you the scale of the task that he's been in post for a long time and not managed to do it yet.
So I think probably the question comes back to the fact, whichever option is taken, it's going to need a strong team to make it happen. And can President Trump find that team? And then probably, to be honest, if he finds the team that can do it, then he can pick and choose between the options, because all will theoretically be possible. Although I'm with you on the fact that it's a huge organization, and I don't imagine whatever happens that this is going to take place over the next year or two, because this is a big machine.
Yeah, I thought for a horrible moment there, Marek, you were pitching to take it on yourself, but I think that's probably not the brightest way to spend the twilight of our careers, trying to turn around a super tanker that's only running on one engine.
I think it was Clint Eastwood that said in one of the Dirty Harry films, "Every man must know his limitations." And I'm with Clint on this one, Gary.
Well, especially if they've got as many as you have, Marek. It's probably true.
All right, I'm not even going to jump to the bait there, Gary. Really great talking. And if you've enjoyed this is to the viewers, of course. If you've enjoyed this video, please below press like and subscribe, because that's what helps keep these videos free for you. Gary, great talking. Look forward to the next one.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.